Hi, it's Ann from Yarn Folk, and I'm here with our weekly video recap. This week we started talking a little bit about the ongoing semi-annual clearance sale. We are getting toward the end of that, and one of the things I did last week was added pattern suggestions to some of the remaining yarns that are on sale. At this point, everything is at least 50% off, so there's some really great deals here. And if you see something that you're interested in but aren't quite sure what to do with it, there are now pattern suggestions on the product pages. That's something that we try and do on an ongoing basis, but there were some products that got missed when we switched everything over from when I changed my point of sale system. There was a lot of information that had to get pushed into Shopify all at once, and not everything got pattern suggestions at that time. So those have been added for many of the clearance yarns, and again, there are some really great deals. In our events section, next week we have a couple of things going on. On Wednesday, the Ellensburg Night Market will be happening from 5 until 9, I believe, and Yarn Folk will be staying open until 8 o'clock. And we're also going to host an extra social stitching next week, and that will be happening from 6 to 8 p.m. Then on Saturday, August 24th, we will be hosting Cerulean Orchid and Geektastic Fibers here at Yarn Folk for a trunk show. Cerulean Orchid is the source of our very charming custom stickers for Yarn Folk, and we've also sold other of her designs over the years as well. Jean Ann is a very lovely person, and this is a wonderful chance to get to see more sticker designs than I can bring in at any one time. She's bringing lots. We're also having Amanda from Geektastic Fibers, and she does a lot of self-striping yarns, and we're really looking forward to hosting her as well. Then this isn't actually in the email, but I just wanted to mention that we will be open during the parade on Saturday of Rodeo Weekend. If you want to hang out and watch from inside or outside on the sidewalk, it's a pretty good spot to see the parade go by. But we'll be open our normal hours on Saturday, and that will include social stitching from 2 to 4 for anyone who's available. It's a busy weekend, but we'll be here. Then on Labor Day, I will be closed. So Monday, September 2nd, Yarn Folk will be closed for the day. And then the last item I wanted to mention on our events calendar is the upcoming Build a Better Fabric class with Patty Lyons. That is happening on October 16th from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific time. And this is a live Zoom class. So the class is being held by Zoom, but it is live only. Patty does not record her classes, and they are interactive. So there's a section for Q&A, and you can bring your questions, but the focus of the class is on the technical aspects of creating a nice knitted fabric. So if you have trouble understanding or meeting gauge, if you have issues with your purl stitches being a different size than your knit stitches, what we sometimes call rowing out, where you can see an unevenness in a stockinette fabric, most particularly that is caused by the difference in size between the stitches. She's got some information for you how to even those things out. She will be talking about these things in terms of different styles of knitting, and she's super knowledgeable, and this is a great chance to get to take a class with her. So that is everything on the events calendar. I did move the Have a Ball Fall Crawl to its own section this week because I wanted to highlight a little bit about that. The Have a Ball Fall Crawl is a virtual yarn crawl. It happens on Zoom, and this, I think, I can't remember whether this is the 3rd or 4th year that Yarn Folk has participated, but it's the 5th year overall of the crawl. It begins on the first day with a live chat with a featured designer, and this year the featured designer is Melanie Berg. You may know many of her really lovely shawl patterns. Drachenfels is one that a lot of people in our community here have made over time. And something that she has been adding to her patterns of late is something, I think she calls them knit maps. But she recently had an experience with breast cancer and wanted to keep knitting throughout her treatment. And one of the things that she found as she was doing that is she really needed a better way to keep track of her work as she went along. And so incorporated into her patterns now are these very detailed check sheets that you can check off as you're going through and making the project. And they have stitch counts at various points that you can check in and make sure that you're still on track. It's a tool that a couple of designers have used in other forms, but these are very comprehensive. And I'm making a sample for the crawl right now and using the tool, and it's wonderful. It allows me to pick it up, put it down, and not worry about where I am at any given time. So Yarn Folks spot in the crawl is on September 22nd at 9:45 a.m. And I just want to remind you that if you haven't participated before, we do also give out a lot of prizes. So the crawl has sponsors, and they have been very generous over the past years in contributing prizes for us to give away throughout the crawl, and it's a fun time. So I hope you register and come. The cost is $10, and that gets you access to the live events and also the replays. Okay, so a couple of new things in the shop. One is that we did restock some of the Washington beanie kits, and those are the Nancy Bates hat pattern. There's 4 different colors, a natural and 3 different colors of green. The hat pattern, it's across the room. I'm not gonna go grab it. But it's basically a treescape, and it is very evocative of our evergreen state. I have included in the kits, I've added some things. So there's a set of coordinating stitch markers, and I also included some extra yarn. The pattern gives you instructions for including a Sasquatch embroidered on your hat afterwards if you like, and I added some yarn so that you can do that if you like to. As far as new yarn that arrived last week, we are super happy to have Tuku Wool DK. We have had the Tuku Wool fingering, and that is what our shop sample of the Autumn Alpine Autumn Alpine sweater is made in. And we did also add, there are a few new colors of Tuku Wool, and we did add a few colors in the fingering, but we brought in a pretty wide selection. Not every single color of the DK, there are a lot, but we did bring in 22 colors. And this yarn has a lot of the same features as the fingering, just sort of bigified. Finish wool, woolen spun. Some of the colors are these rich heathers. This is one of the new colors, and we have this in both the DK and the fingering. This is another of the new colors of Tuku Wool. This one we just have in the DK. This one is DK and fingering. This one is a solid. The first 2 I showed you were sort of a heathered colors. Some very vivid colors. Olive oil is one that we have in DK and fingering, and this heathered, I think it's called Lilac Mist. Yeah, Lilac Mist we have in both fingering and DK. The DK skeins are very generous. They are 273 yards, I believe. 273 yards, and it is a woolen spun yarn, so What that means for your purposes is that it makes a very light and airy fabric that is still substantial. Really wonderful to knit with. It's got good stitch definition. It's beautiful in color work. So really special yarn we're very happy to have. And then in our last section, I always talk about a little bit about projects that I've been working on. I finished the Painted with Beads scarf. This is just kind of a little tie, but it's a fun chance to play with beaded knitting. And I finished this sample, and next week I should have kits available. The kits will include both the yarn and the beads for the project. So really just a fun, it's a situation where you've got a fingering and a mohair held together, and the beads are placed as you go along according to a chart. The designer is Pope Vergara. So there is that. And then I also have been working on my Muscle Doodle hat. So this is a mashup of a Musselburgh hat with Pacific Knit Company's doodle patterns, modular mix and match color work patterns. I'm using, I own the Autumn Doodle cowl pattern, and so that is what I'm using. My main color here is Madeline Tosh Wool Cycle Sport. This is a yarn that we're planning on bringing in soon. And then I'm using lots of mixy-matchy fingering weight and sport weight yarns. So this is the first crown section. I'm about to do the first and second brim sections, and then I'll end with the final crown section. The next brim section, the orientation, I've been knitting the charts upside down so that when the hat is worn, they will be right side up. The next brim section will be knitting right side up. The next brim section after that will be back to upside down, and then the final crown section will be right side up, and that will make it so that the hat is oriented correctly when it's stuffed up into itself. You can wear it inside out or right side out, I guess. Yeah, so that's been a really fun project. I haven't made a lot of progress on it since I sent out the email because I've been working on a project for the Have a Ball Fall Crawl. That is it for this week, and thanks for tuning in. We'll see you soon.